Hi, welcome to Insights with Nandu. We've seen recently the Black Lives Movement as it's unfolded in the US, and the ripple effects have been felt all the way through Europe, Asia, the rest of the world. A lot of manufacturers have even changed their brand names of their products as a result of the sensitivity. And people are starting to wonder how to improve the whole diversity and inclusion agenda. I'm going to speak from my experience. I was part of the first generation that was born in an independent India, and then was educated in India and subsequently had a global career, rising to become the first Asian in 150 years to be on the executive board of Nestle worldwide, based in Switzerland. And I have to credit the leaders at the time for their vision and their courage in giving me the opportunities as I developed and grew as a leader and as a business person. So what I'm going to talk about is my learnings along the way. And God knows I made a lot of mistakes. Some of that will also find its way into the advice I'm going to share with you. I don't believe I have all the answers. I'm sure there will be people amongst you who will disagree with what I'm going to say. So please do enlighten us with your views in the comments below so we can all be better educated by a robust dialogue around this topic. Because nobody has a monopoly on the truth here, and every point of view will come with some inbuilt biases. So let's start by looking at where does this come from. And to some extent, as human beings, from the time we are born, we have this incredible need to categorize things, so we start to make sense of the world around us. As we grow, we start to categorize people as well. So particularly in a business context or in a social context, there's people like us and people who are not like us. And this just makes life somewhat simpler from our brains. And we believe we can predict that people like us will behave in a particular predictable way, whereas people who are not like us may think very differently from us. So we start to create these stereotypes based on race, ethnicity, gender, religious beliefs, how you speak, the language you speak, how you dress, and so on. These are just kind of shortcuts our brain tends to create. And this is therefore often reflected in the behaviors, the kind of people we like to socialize with, the kind of people we like to hang out with, and eventually the kind of people we like to hire in our businesses and keep around us. In a sense, in today's world, in today's reality, where there's so much globalization and so much change that's coming, this, even apart from any moral or social perspectives, from a simple business point of view, it's actually bad business. Because the more we surround ourselves with people like us, the more our perspectives are going to be limited to one way of looking at the world. And in a globalized world where there's so much change and disruption happening, we actually need diverse perspectives. We actually need diversity, and we need to find a way to harness the diversity to work to our advantage. So I'm going to try and come at this topic, therefore, from two different points of view. One point of view is from the point of view of leadership, the board, and the CEO. And the other point of view is from the point of view of the individual who may be in a situation or a company where he or she has to move from being an outsider to becoming an insider. So two different points of view. First, from a board and leadership point of view, it's very important to recognize and realize that we not only need to build a diversity of worldviews and thinking styles into the company, but we need to create a culture and a climate where this diversity is free to express itself, is not scared to express itself, and is in fact made to feel welcome, made to feel with a culture that is kind of inclusive in some way. So that is a responsibility starting from the board through to the top leadership in the company. And this is one of the key responsibilities going forward. And this is going to, I don't think people are saying, give me a job because of my race or religion or gender. That's kind of insulting to say, listen, we gave you the job only because of your race or your gender. No, what people are saying is not, don't discriminate for me because of my race or religion or gender or language. What they're saying is, don't discriminate against me because of my race or religion or gender. So there's a very subtle kind of difference. And it's good for leadership to understand this in the journey to creating a truly inclusive culture and taking chances on people who are not part of the core group where the company culture was formed from. And we see this across the world. In almost every country, culture around the world, there are people, based on the origin of the company and how the company started, there are people who are considered insiders, one of us, and we trust them more, we can predict their behavior, and there are people who are outsiders, and there's a certain reservation. So how we bridge this, how we create that culture, that's very much a top management, leadership, even board responsibility to create it, monitor it, nurture it, and make sure that it actually allows diversity to flourish. Very key. Coming then to the individual response and the individual point of view. If you are watching this video and you are an individual who is feeling in some way as an outsider within the corporate environment, I feel for you. I've been there on various occasions. I know what it feels like, and it can feel very lonely, and it can feel very difficult. So I'm going to share with you some perspectives and tips of what you can do and what you cannot do. And maybe you wouldn't agree with all of what I'm going to say, but it's a starting point for a discussion. Now, within the company, acts of biases on any of these different parameters can be conscious and large acts of biases, or they can be often unconscious and small acts of exclusion that people don't even realize that they are doing or making. So, and both can feel bad, can feel really bad if you're on the receiving end of it, particularly if the other person doesn't even realize what he or she is doing. And I know this feels really bad. From a response point of view, the first and most important response, I would say, is don't complain about it. Don't be a victim. In your own mind, don't be a victim and don't complain. Also to your close friends and colleagues, don't be somebody who just goes there and complains about what's not going right or how somebody discriminated against you. The moment you start to complain, you start to build this negative mindset in your brain, and then you often, your behaviors will trigger these responses. It'll become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Instead of going there, think about how you can create a calibrated response to what it is you experience. So let's start with the small unconscious acts that often you might be feeling. Now, what I have found is most people are actually, in their minds, they don't perceive themselves as biased in any of these categories. Some of those acts are very, very unconscious. So what helps is to start to build a very professional one-to-one dialogue with all of these people who might be people that you interact with. At the same time, also try and extend your network across the company to build a variety of people that you connect with across hierarchical levels and across functions. And in each case, build a one-to-one dialogue which is very professional, where people understand your values, your professionalism, and what you can bring to the company to actually help achieve the goals of the company. That will go a long way towards getting rid of all the small acts. People may never see you as one of us, but they'll start to trust you and they'll start to respect you. And that's the starting point towards eventually becoming an insider. What's very important when you do this is don't engage in politics, don't complain, and don't point fingers at anybody else, because that's not a luxury you have as an outsider to be able to do. That can very quickly backfire on you. Instead, go in there, rise above the politics, and approach things from a very professional point of view, from a values-based point of view. That is something that will be respected. And what you're looking for is to build respect and trust, not liking, respect and trust. It's not necessary to go out and have beer with the boys. If you want to do that, yeah, by all means do that, but it's not necessary. You don't have to do that. What's far more important is building the respect and the trust, okay? Then, as part of calibrating the response, if there's an overt act of racism, sexual harassment, that is not something you should tolerate. So respond to it fast, respond to it strongly, and as far as possible, utilizing the official channels within the company to respond to such things that happen. In my experience, most companies have a very well-defined code of governance and ethics and values, and they do take complaints like this very seriously, and they do act on them. If, however, you find in your company this is not taken seriously and people are not acting, if you find that there is a clash between the values that are stated and practiced, or the values that are practiced and your own personal values, then it's time to leave the company, go elsewhere, and find a place where you can be valued as an individual and not as a symbol of a minority. Okay? Having said all of this, then we move beyond the most important thing that you need to understand and remember. What people are looking and what they will eventually evaluate you on is, do you deliver results? So deliver the numbers. That's one thing nobody can argue with. As long as you deliver results, as long as you deliver the numbers, they will speak for you. You don't have to speak for you. You can publicize your achievements. You can talk about how not just you, but your team has done together. And that's good. Don't talk about yourself. Talk about your team. Talk about the results. That's good. But eventually your numbers are going to speak for you. Okay? Make sure, however, that in getting those numbers, in getting those results, you do not compromise any fundamental values or business principles of integrity. Do it in the right way, by rising above and being the best leader you can think of, by being the best at delivering the results in that particular kind of situation. Leadership and communication, another very important thing. Work on developing your leadership skills, your communication skills, and come at this whole journey of developing your leadership and communication skills by rising above the politics and rising to the highest level that you are capable of being. The more you do this and the more you treat people in a way that you see them also as capable of rising, the more they will in fact live up to your expectations. Not only subordinates, also peers, also eventually seniors. They treat them and hold them accountable to the highest standards of behavior, model it personally, also let them know that's what you look up to them for, and you will often find that that creates a positive cycle, a virtuous, positive cycle of energy, which actually comes back and eventually helps you in this journey. The next thing is start building your personal brand, not only inside the company, but also outside the company, with business partners, with industry forums. So participate in all of these, go and contribute in all of these, talk at these. Always talk from the point of view of professionalism, values, be the highest self you can be at every one of these occasions. And the more you will find, the more you build your personal brand outside and inside, this less likely people are to take you for granted. That is eventually the way things do work out. Next, have patience. These things don't happen soon, okay? You often have to stay in a role for a while. You may have to stay even a little longer till people get the trust and the respect, and particularly for your values and the business results. But eventually, opportunities will open up. If, however, at any point of time, you see a clash in the values, like we said earlier, or you see that it's taking too long to get the breaks you're looking for, look, it's perfectly okay to look outside and look at other opportunities with companies elsewhere where you might in fact be able to shatter the glass ceiling and move in at a fairly senior level. I do find there is a growing awareness of this whole issue, and I think if we approach this professionally, this can become a huge turning point in business where we actually not only companies are going to further the diversity and inclusion agenda, but people who feel that they're in the minority can help themselves and help the companies further this agenda in a very positive spiral. So I hope you found this useful, and please do leave your comments in the comments below. And if you have a divergent point of view, or if you disagree with what I've said, that's perfectly okay. Please do mention that in the comments, and we'll all benefit from your views and your experience. I hope you found that useful and interesting. Now here's what I'd like you to do. If you liked the video, please click the like button. If there's something more you'd like to listen to, or a point of view that you have, please engage, please leave a comment, and I'll try and respond to it either directly or in future videos. And most importantly, if you liked the video or you found something relevant, please share it with your friends. Finally, please hit the subscribe button and also click the bell icon so you can get notifications whenever we post fresh videos. Thank you for being with us and help make this channel a success, so together we can explore many new areas and grow intellectually together.